Welcome back to First Year Presidents, the show for first year presidents themselves or people who are thinking about, gee, maybe I want to become a company founder or president. Generally, staff 15 to 500, somewhere in there. And the things you discover, the things you find out. All right, my guest today is Royce Hall of CRM Science, a consulting company that works with Salesforce CRMs. And we'll get to him in a second because today's episode is sponsored by Internal Business Intelligence by Cold Start Technologies. If you are one of these new company presidents and you got into a company and you got in there and you went, what? Wait a minute. Maybe you've been a president before and you have expectations that there should be software, dashboards, a single source of truth, and that stuff's not there. Well, your annual bonus, your performance bonus is in peril, is it not? Right? So you need to go check out Cold Start Tech's Internal Business Intelligence. That is down in the description. There'll be a link to that, and see just how they can help you get that stuff that you know you need. So, Royce, thanks for being here. Let's talk about CRM Science. Good name.
The idea of CRM Science is your CRM, right? It's the place where you have, it's your center of business, the center of gravity for your business, right? And it takes a deft hand to make that run well a lot of times. And like you're saying with your first year presidents, you inherit an org. Hopefully you inherit a Salesforce. Hopefully you inherit something that's built well. But oftentimes there's a lot of things that can be done better. Better business processes, better setup, better architecture. It just takes, kind of a scientific approach to do it well. I remember back in the day, 20, 25 years ago, an article coming about software bros. And, it was lamenting that there's all these dudes that are coming into software just to get rich and weren't really technical, but they were just good dudes that are riding the wave and getting paid, right? But even with something that's set up for business users, which, that's what Salesforce is, right? It's supposed to be something the line of business user can tweak and customize. Even with that setup, you can kind of get in a ditch a lot of times, and it takes somebody who has, again, that kind of scientific approach, following best practices, knowing good from bad, what's going to make the system run slow, what's going to be a drag to use. User adoption is a big thing. Even when you go through the process of digital changeover, going from pen and paper to software, people often reject it because it's not intuitive. So, having somebody with that scientific approach really helps that adoption work well and helps your system run well. And I'll say we've definitely got our marketing down. If you see us at a Salesforce conference, we're always wearing these lab coats. We stand out in a crowd.
Nice, nice. Okay. Well, you brought up a bunch of triggers there about why somebody would be interested in their CRM. That got me thinking too, because I had not been thinking about a new president coming into a company. And a CRM's important, right? And having expectations about how the workflow should be, right? I sold proprietary CRMs for years, and I enjoyed selling against Microsoft CRM, especially because Microsoft CRM requires that you click through 100 screens to get to where you want to go, right? And if I could reduce that to 3, we could save a lot of time. And if you multiply that over 15 people over a year, that adds up to a lot of money, and the system pays for itself, right? But also, customized workflows and things like that really make a difference. And I loved what you brought up about the transition from a manual CRM, and that is laughable a lot of the time, to something on the computer, because I have lifted up the keyboards of salespeople and found Post-it notes with chicken scratch of a lead on it, lost under there, right? Who knows when that thing came in? And so if it doesn't get into the system, it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
So,
And I've been guilty of that too. Like I've done that where I used to work in an environment where I had post-it notes all over the place. I loved it. Like I knew where everything was. But for your first year presidents, like it's not scalable, right? And you end up tripping over each other. So if I'm selling stuff and you're selling stuff, man, I've talked to companies where they're like, our salespeople, three of them called the same person in one day. And it's like it doesn't
Yeah,
scale because you don't have not so much that there's a lack of accountability, but there's a lack of visibility into what other people are doing. So trying to coordinate a sales team that is nationwide or global, like you just can't do it without having some sort of system in place.
right, right. Now, tell me a little bit about your experience with transitions from one kind of CRM to another, because I've been through this with
Mm.
multinational, like global multinational organizations, right? And they would come up with some, like I've used everything from ACT with the exclamation point to these
Yep.
proprietary systems,
Yeah.
text based, right? And then they're like, "Ooh, we're moving to Windows," And I was thinking this is like 2005 as an example I'm thinking of,
Yep.
and it was fascinating. The grinding of the gears and the smoke of people trying to transition from one to the other, not knowing the syntax, some adjusting better than others. What kind of problems and solutions do you see in that sort of situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Salesforce, it's a huge platform. Like you can do so much with it,
Mm,
right? There's so much customization that you can do in workflows and objects and fields and reports and dashboards. That's why people get on it, right? Is because it is
mm,
the enterprise best tool out there. And with that comes a multitude of issues, right? One, you talked about the grind of the gears of how do we
mm.
do this. So, that's one area that my company really shines is like, okay,
Okay.
you're using Salesforce, and you don't necessarily have staff on hand on your payroll that knows how to work Salesforce. Well, we can coach you. We can offer support contracts where we're like there for you on a monthly basis to kind of guide you. And that's really helpful for your first year presidents because it's like, okay, I've inherited this thing
Hmm.
and I could go tell my best salesperson to go work on Salesforce, but guess what? They don't want to do that, right?
Hmm.
And that's not in your best interest. You want that person selling, not building
Yeah.
infrastructure. So we can come in and help with that. But what we see is when you are going from one platform to another, there's a few things that really have to happen. One, you have to decide what do you actually want to keep. Just doing like a lift and shift is
Hmm.
often not a great idea, right? So, as we're investing in this new platform, what is working well, what has not been working well? Do we need to carry over all these processes that nobody's
Hmm.
doing anyway?
Hmm.
Okay, so let's take the time to do some process redesign. And a lot of times that's something that we have to lead our clients through. Not that we're designing the new process for them, but you have to tell us what do you want to do? What do you want that experience to be like? And as a consultant, you have to keep your ear open of like, why did this fail? What
Hmm.
what were the kind of internal turmoils that perhaps led to the last thing failing, that led to us not having that good adoption? And I think that's probably something that you can help out with as well in
Hmm.
in your practice, uncovering those kind of internal landmines that often sink even good projects.
Yeah.
So, what are the changes that are needed in the platform? And then, there's a lot of technical stuff too about like, okay, especially your kind of note-based CRMs where it's like everything is you kind of think of like a Microsoft doc, like everything's
Hmm.
just one big document. Like, oh, okay, we're not doing that anymore. How do we take that historical data? How do we ingest that into our CRM? What fields do we need to do? And then really at the end of the day, it's driving that adoption. So how do we make sure that our senior leaders are on board? Because like if
Hmm.
they're not into it, the people below them definitely aren't going to be into it. So how do we get that senior leadership buy-in and trained? Because at some point, they're going to be the ones answering the questions about what's going on. So how do we get them trained? How do we get them equipped? And then, the users as well, like getting in front of them and saying, okay, here's the new workflow. Here's the buttons that you click. Here's the things that you do. If you need us when you need us, here's our phone number. Here's our Slack channel. Here's all those things.
Okay. Again, a lot going on there. Tell me about a situation where you were brought in and maybe the company president wasn't too interested in CRMs. Like they know that their team needs it, but they want to push that away and be like, well, the VP of Ops or the VP of IT can take care of that. How essential is it for that president to be on board, and what do you do?
It's very essential for, your senior leadership to be on board. You have to make the case, right? You have to build the case for that CRM. How is it going to help? And you have to kind of think in their terms. So, like, yes, it's going to help out with efficiency. So, if we're doing 10 deals a day, maybe we can do 12 or 13. So, like, there's opportunities for saying, like, how can we speed up the process? But also, like, think about their job. Like, they're accountable to people as well. They're accountable to a board of directors. They're accountable to founders. They're accountable to all sorts of people. So, can we make your reporting, your, metrics, you want, all of us want to be data driven these days, right? All of us want to have the correct metrics to drive our company. By having your data in place and having your team put the data in correctly, right? That's the whole exercise is, we're putting accurate data in. They're going to be able to guide with more confidence. They're going to be able to lead their company with more confidence. So making that use case of like, okay, this is not simply about efficiency for your sales team, which that's definitely there, or efficiency for your operations team. Like we're able to speed up the handling of cases, the handling
Mm-hmm.
of support,
Okay.
makes
Huh.
upselling easier too. All those good things that lead into their bonus at the end of the year, right?
Right.
And then
Mm.
they're going to be able to track it more reliably. Like, how accurate is our operations pipeline? By using that system, your presidents are going to get the insights that are essential for them to being successful in their job. I think that's the pitch right there.
Okay. I think we're starting to see it. So Salesforce has their own rep that's attached to the company, right? It's probably an
That's right.
employee. What's the difference between them and you? And I know the difference,
Yeah.
but I want you to say
Yeah, yeah. Great
it.
question. So the big difference, by and large, Salesforce does not sell you service.
Hmm,
So they're going to sell you a license to their product. And then they'll say, good luck, right?
hmm,
They give more, that's underselling it a little bit. But by and large, like they're not going to go in and build things out for you. They're going to make a referral to a award-winning partner like CRM Science and say you need to talk to them about
hmm.
customizing Salesforce. Salesforce is a fantastic tool, but you have to think of it like tool. Like, I've got my wood, I've got my hammers, I got my screws and nails and all those things, but you still have to assemble it, right? And Salesforce isn't going to do that for you. That's where I
Okay.
step in.
That's got to be frustrating. You pay all this money for this thing, and it's just a heap of stuff. And I've
Yeah,
seen this with dashboards
yeah,
too, right? These tech companies will sell these dashboards, and they were designed by programmers who are not business people, and they've got all these graphs and features and buttons turned on and stuff like that. You don't need it, right?
yeah,
You should probably turn everything off and then start turning one thing on at a time for a while and going, yeah,
yeah.
live with it for a bit. Do I need this? I'd like to hear, Royce, a couple of examples from recent times of adjustments, changes, additions, workflow changes that you've done for client companies and what the results have been.
To follow up on one thing that you just said
Mm,
here, the reason why people use Salesforce, people get off, your HubSpots or your Act or whatever it may be, is because they want it to be customized. They're finding that their smaller CRMs are not doing,
mm,
they're not capable of doing what they want. So like HubSpot, like I want to build all these custom workflows, all these triggers and everything. And you're just like, well, I can't do it, right? So that's
mm,
why people come to Salesforce. So like we definitely see Salesforce where it's like, okay, I've got the tool bag and I want to build a bookshelf. Like I got a bookshelf behind me. Like I've got the tool bag to build it. It's not built for me. You can buy the built for you, but then you're like, it's not built the way that I want. That's why people come to Salesforce. I can think of a client that we're working with. They're in the medical device
mm,
industry. and they have people across the United States that are using their medical devices, and they need to monitor those. Are they working? Are they not working? Do they need service? They have people in the field that are servicing these products and issuing these products every day across, I think they're across like 35 states now.
Hmm.
So that's a lot of moving pieces, right? And that's something that you're not going to do on pen and paper, and you need a fairly robust system for. So what we've done is we've they already had Salesforce implemented for their sales team, but we're rolling it out for their service team. So we're
Hmm.
building robust integrations. Some of the device monitoring tools that they use are not natively connected to Salesforce. That's the great thing about Salesforce is it can be
API.
connected to just about anything.
Yeah.
So we're going in and we're building those connections for them and then building out what's called field service lightning. So they have people in the field every day that are managing tickets. They're not sitting behind a desk like I am, right? So how do you keep those people in the field up to date on their assignments? How do
Hmm.
you give them the ability to update their work orders? And then, how do you marry their processes to Salesforce? That's the nice thing about Salesforce is you don't have to follow Salesforce's processes. You can build your own. So that's what we're doing for them is we are building those processes, building those integrations so that they can manage their whole business from Salesforce and be connected to data and
Hmm.
systems all over the place.
Yeah. So there is a use case, frankly, I hadn't thought of. So not just Salesforce for sales teams, but Salesforce as a feedback loop to
Mm,
speed up and make more accurate field data, right? That's interesting. The OpEx guy in me is like, oh, really?
yeah.
I want to check this out, right? So, okay. Very,
Yeah.
very
And
cool.
I think that's a great way, like, service for
Mm,
Salesforce is a huge thing. Putting my sales hat on, like we want our sales team to sell. We got them in Salesforce. But when they talk to the service team, like, what if you can turn your cost center into a revenue center, right?
mhm,
What if those service people are connected to see like what is the sales team doing? Oh,
mm,
did you know if you like, if you upgraded to this other product or this other service, it takes care of all of your issues. Now your sales team
mhm,
can, your service team can be part of the sales process as well, or they can see, this person is looking into this product over here and running into issues. They are more equipped for their job. So having the whole enterprise in Salesforce has a lot of value. You get all of your teams
mhm.
talking to one another, sharing valuable data with one another is very powerful.
Right, right. Yeah, avoiding having two tech stacks. Interesting. I mean, yeah, you look at a car dealership, an RV dealership, the service department is obviously a revenue center, a profit center, right? In those
Exactly.
cases. But for other organizations, they may need to pull that idea over, and this is how you do it. All right.
That's right.
Well, Royce, how can people contact you and CRM Science? This isn't a paid endorsement or anything like that. Nobody pays to get on this show. I want to make that abundantly clear. I bring on people who I think are interesting to first year presidents.
Yeah. Royce at crmscience.com. And you
Okay.
can find us at crmscience.com. And if you're on the Salesforce App Exchange, that's where Salesforce, posts apps that you can customize Salesforce with. You can find us there as well, CRM Science.
Okay. Very, very cool. My guest today, Royce Hall of CRM Science. Today's episode is brought to you by Internal Business Intelligence by Cold Star Technologies. If you're a company president who just jumped in, maybe just both feet and blind into a new company, open your eyes and realize, oh man, things are not as I expected them to be. And you need a spotlight shone on operations, the staff you inherited, that key management team. What kind of hidden agendas do they have? Right? It's time to talk to Cold Star Technologies about getting internal business intelligence working for you and helping the company vision that you have be brought to life. And you can see more information about that in the description below. Royce, thanks for doing this.
Thank you.